Welcome to Becca's Bold Blurbs, quick and radical perspectives on living sober by getting the nonsense out of your noggin so you can get on with living this one wonderful life you've been given. Let's get to it. Okay, welcome back. Let's do a blurb, baby. All right, so yesterday I talked about, first of all, shoulders back, tummy in, chest out. Let's do this. Are we ready? Okay, all right. So yesterday I pointed out the fact that if we ain't growing emotionally, right, and spiritually, and in our mindset and in the way we approach life and the way we feel about our past and our present and our future. We talked about all these things that we need to be growing. Otherwise, we are doing what? We are going to get flabby, emotionally flabby. We're gonna deteriorate. So, in the talk yesterday, one of the things I said was that we need to overcome things like resentments, regret, judgment, self-limiting beliefs, shame. I didn't say all that, but anyway, hinted at it. These are, of course, things we need to get over in order to grow. And what that leads us to is the fact that if we don't recognize these things, we can't overcome them. So let me back up. I've been reading a book by Dr. David R. Hawkins. I've actually read a couple of his books. One, Power versus Force, and the one I'm reading that right now is called Letting Go. He's a very interesting fellow. He's done some very interesting research on how the body is affected by our emotions. But one quote from his book really stuck out for me in terms of today's talk. So he said, the quickest way to grow is by telling the truth to self and others. Let me say that again. The quickest way to grow is by telling the truth to self and others. And that's exactly where we have to start, folks. So if we decide, okay, I'm going to take on this project and I'm going to, like I would my body, take my body to the gym, I'm going to get a project going so that I can grow emotionally, so I can grow spiritually, so I can grow my mindset, so I can overcome some of the stuff. But how can we do any of that if we don't even know what we're up against? And that, my friends, is where the snag is. Okay? Let's put it this way. If you don't recognize your own limitations, your own resentments, your own whatever it is, you can't overcome it. And guess what else happens? Seeing these things in ourselves is incredibly difficult. And guess what else happens? No one's going to tell us. Very few people in our life in our lives are going to come along and tell us the truth. Hey, Becca, did you realize that you're a very judgmental person? Did you notice that? No one's going to say it. People do not tell us the truth. We just don't. It's impolite. I mean, who would want to do that? They don't want to hurt us. We don't want to hurt others. We all have people in our lives that, we notice things about them. We don't tell them. I mean, it would be mean. Who wants to do that? It's not our job, and it's very, very uncomfortable. We don't do it. So there are very few people in our lives. Maybe we're lucky to have a counselor. Even I've had lots of counselors, and none of them, ever told me the truth. Right? Who's going to tell us the truth? Well, if you get a good coach, they will. That's their job, by the way. And I've had several coaches now at this point. And I'm talking life coaches. I've had a mindset coach. I've had several business coaches. And a good coach should tell you the truth, should be the one willing to call you out on your crap. That's a coach's job. Now, not all of them do. Not all of them are as good at that as others. But I tell you, if you find one willing to do that, you have found a piece of gold. Because we need someone, whether it's a coach or, and we need someone in our lives willing to say, well, okay, I noticed this, I noticed that. And we need to be able to hear it without losing it. right? It's not easy to hear. Now, most of us aren't willing to do this. We're not going to run around trying to find somebody who's going to get to know us and then tell us, what they see so we can start working on ourselves. So this is where we get stuck. I mean, this is just normal. This is normal stuff, right? And so that's where we have to start, people. If we decide to take on this project of growth that I talked about yesterday, how do we get started? How do we see ourselves clearly? How do we lay out a project? Let's say we decide, okay, I'm going to do some journaling, and I'm going to discover, where my weaknesses lie, and I'm going to work on those, and I'm going to grow. That's all amazing project. But how in the heck do you do it when you can't see your own self? And we can see some of it. And I'll tell you what, we actually, a part of us knows all of it. The question is, are we willing to face it? Are we willing to get honest and go, well, the truth is, I'm a pretty judgmental person. I admit it. Now, I'll tell you one thing I found. If you know me at all and you know my story at all, you know that in 2018, I hit my absolute alcoholic rock bottom when I went into an 8-day blackout. Yeah. And from there, I ended up in getting medically detoxed at the detox center attached to the hospital. And from there, I went into 2 months at a treatment center. And when I arrived, it turns out, I didn't know this at the time, but I couldn't think straight anyway, so it doesn't matter. The treatment center was a 12-step based. Not all of them are. This one was, which meant that I was going to be exposed to a 12-step program for those 8 weeks. And I frankly was not terribly happy about it. But that's another story. My point here is that I was exposed to the 12 steps. And I can tell you this. That is the foundation of doing the 12 steps too. You have to start by telling the truth. You have to start by being honest. You have to start by going, okay, well, we got to get some humility. And that is hard. Really hard. So how do we get started? If we're going to take on this project of personal growth and evolution, how on earth do we get started? Right? It's not easy. Now, of course, my advice is very straightforward. Get yourself a really good coach, and it should have a community attached to it so you can start doing this work. But if you're not going to do that, and that's what I do that in my program. I'm launching a brand new program called Perspectives, and we're launching the beta on the 10th of June, which is like 2 weeks from now. And that's what I do. I tell people what I see. I'm one of those coaches that will tell you the truth once I get to know you. And I also, in the program, I help you to see the truth, and I help you to look at that and accept it, and then take it from there, and we start growing. I mean, you don't take it together, right? But my point here is that we have to start by telling the truth. So let's go back to the quote from Dr. Hawkins. The quickest way to grow is by telling the truth to self and others. And I want you to know that is the hardest part of this. But once you've done it, the rest is gravy. I mean, if you think about it, if you have a list of things in front of you on a piece of paper that you need to work on, and you're convinced and you're confident that is a list of things that are holding you back. It could be some resentment, it could be judgment, it could be selfishness, it could be, who knows, right? There's a long list of things that hold us back spiritually and hold us back from spiritual growth. And so if you had that list, well, the hardest part is getting the list. Who am I? What do I need to work on? But once you have it, and you have the humility, the willingness to look at that list and go, okay, that's me. I admit it. That's me. I got to do this. Then after that, it's easy, right? It's a lifelong project of watching and self-correcting as you go along. I mean, there's more to it than that, and there's techniques you can use, and there's all sorts of strategies, different journaling strategies, and it's great to talk it over in groups and all of this stuff that you can do. But I mean, the hardest part I'm getting at here, the hardest part is starting with the truth. Can you get real with yourself? Can you tell the truth about who you are? Because without that, you can't take on this project. Yeah, I know, right? It's like, wow, that's deep. So we have to start there. And that's why I came back today to say to you, if you're excited about the project, meaning the spiritual growth project, the lifelong project of growing, because if you're not growing, you are deteriorating. You're going to get grumpier. You're going to get less happy. You're going to get more resentful. You're going to get more angry. You're going to get more judgmental. You're going to get less compassionate. All those things that whatever it is you might be carrying, they're just going to get worse because that's what happens. It's just like if you don't exercise your body, it's just going to get flabbier and flabbier and flabbier. The same happens, right? So we've got to be taking on this project, and it all starts with telling the truth. So there it is. I'm just feeling like I just threw a massive bucket of ice cold water on you. I'm so sorry. But hey, what are you going to do? If you want to grow, we got to be able to have the courage to step up and get honest about it. So I invite you tonight to just sit quietly and ask yourself if you're willing. Do you have the courage to take on this project? Do you have the courage to look at yourself? Give that some thought. Take some time with that. And if you do, then your first step is going to be watching your own behavior and thinking carefully about it and see if you can start finding the things in your personality, in your that you believe you need to work on. And I mean, come on. At the same time, you're probably also, if you're willing, able to pull a couple right out of the hat without even trying. We know who we are on some level, right? It's just most of us don't want to see it. It's just so much easier to scroll through social media and not face it, or have another drink and not face it, or watch another Netflix and not face it, or go socialize, or go shopping, or work ourselves to death. We do all of those things so we don't have to look at this. So if you have the courage, I invite you to open the door, be brave, be gentle with yourself, because I want you to remember, all of us have this. All of us. And it takes true courage to decide, I'm going to tell myself the truth. And then I'm going to do something about it. That is an amazing human being. That is an amazing human being. Not the person that's overcome it, the person that just stands right there at the beginning, raw and open, and says, all right, it's going to hurt a little bit. But I am going to tell the truth. I wish this dog would stop going in and out the pet door. Can you hear that clipping? That's the dog. She's in and out, in and out. Sorry, I'll have to lock it next time. Maybe she needed to come in just to break the tension. Maybe that's what that was for. All right. But I want to just say that again, what I was saying before she interrupted me. If you're willing to do this, you are one amazing, courageous human being. An amazing, courageous human being. And I know that you will never regret it. You will... Taking on this type of project yes, it takes courage and humility, but it also breeds happiness and freedom for you and those who love you. You become kinder, more patient, more generous, more understanding, more forgiving. I mean, who doesn't want that? So there it is, my dears. So thank you so much for dropping in. I know this was a tough one to hear, but you're also tough, and I know you can take it. So there it is. I will be back tomorrow, hopefully with a little bit lighter. But hey, after all, we're here to do the bold blurbs, so what the heck, we might as well do it, right? Sending you tons of love. See you tomorrow. Thanks for popping in. Be sure to come back tomorrow so we can keep your head on straight. Sending you buckets of love.